Hello, everybody. It's Christy, your friendly digital technology librarian, and I am here with you yet again for another Film Rec Friday. It is the beginning of November, if you can believe it, and of course, with November come thoughts of, say, Thanksgiving, end of the year holidays, and family. So I thought this week, why don't we take a look at films that all have to do with family and the complications that can sometimes arise when family gets together. Now, what I found most interesting when I was compiling this list is that no matter what the genre, whether we're talking about dramas, comedies, or even, say, action films, uh, anytime you put family in there, when that mix gets together, there are always crazy complications. And I think that's pretty indicative of family in general. Complications can be good, they can be bad, they can be dramatic, they can be sad, and I think all of these films are really, really great examples of those things. Whether or not it's a really reality based piece or something that's totally outside of the realm of possibilities, these movies will absolutely speak to all of us and speak to all of us about the relationships that we share with people who we know are a regular part of our lives. So, with that, as with every week, all of these recommendations are available to you for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card, and they're available through our three video services, which are Clevenet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, and Kanopy service. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started on those recommendations. Let's go ahead and kick things off, as usual, with our CleveNet Overdrive recommendations, the first of which is a movie called August Osage County. August Osage County is one of those movies you watch when you're in the mood for something well acted, because this cast is crazy. You have the film being led by Meryl Streep. You have performances from Julia Roberts, Chris Cooper, Sam Shepard, Benedict Cumberbatch playing a Southern guy, which is always a little bit weird for me because I'm so used to hearing him with a British accent. You have Ewan McGregor, same situation. Dermot Mulroney, Juliette Lewis, Abigail Breslin. I mean, there's no weak link in this cast. And this family that we're looking at in the movie is the definition of dysfunctional, and there are so many complications going on. We talked about complicated family interactions. This is chock full of them. And because of those complications and because of this ridiculously stellar cast, every single scene is explosive. Those interactions just go crazy. And it's one of those movies that becomes a masterclass in acting. So if you like the kind of film where you leave remembering how brilliant all those performances were, this is definitely a good option for you. Now, basic storyline, Violet is this rather vicious matriarch of a southern family, and she discovers that apparently her husband has left her. She closes ranks. Her family comes in to, I guess, support her. Support is an interesting way to describe it, but that's really the best way, I suppose. And it all sort of snowballs from there. We find out things that everyone thought were secrets. We find out things that everyone supposedly already knows. It's a strangely believable film in that we all hope our families aren't like that, but at the same time you can pull little bits and pieces of relatable information, like those secrets that aren't really secret or things like that. So while like your storyline is a little bit over the top, all of that phenomenal acting ability just makes it so emotionally relatable. So definitely check out August Osage County. Excellent film, brilliantly acted. Second recommendation from Clevenet's Overdrive is a small, quiet, significantly less bitter film called Unfinished Song that stars some really fantastic British actors, including Terence Stamp, Chris Eccleston, who probably most people know as the Ninth Doctor in Doctor Who, uh, Vanessa Redgrave, and Gemma Arterton. I never say that right. Gemma Arterton. And these four just work so well together. The basic storyline follows an older, rather curmudgeonly gentleman as he's sort of pulled into this circle of his wife's choral friends. She is one of those women who, she has had a lot of ups and downs in life and she struggles with some health issues, and yet she's still always trying to stay upbeat. She wants to look at each new day as a new chance, and she's just so lovely. And you 100% see why he is with her. She makes him so much better. He has a difficult relationship with his son, played by Christopher Eccleston, and as the movie goes on, we see how their relationship really alters through the main character's interactions with his wife and with the choral group. It's a quiet movie. It's not, there's not a lot of shouting, there's not a lot of, you know, over the top situations. It's just a really lovely drama with very funny parts too. I mean, there's tragedy, but there's also like a lot of humor in there. So if you're looking for a movie that's really well rounded, that's really focused in on these small relationships between family members and the peripheral members of our community, definitely check out Unfinished Song. It's very lovely, it's inspirational, and it's sweet. So, Unfinished Song, also on CleveNet Overdrive, excellent option. My final recommendation for CleveNet's Overdrive is for yet another small film called A Simple Life. Now, A Simple Life is a Cantonese language film, so it is subtitled. But even if you're not a fan of foreign language films, this one is honestly so, so beautiful. I strongly urge you to check it out. It's one of those movies that makes you ask yourself, what is it that makes a family? Because this storyline focuses in on two people who've been a part of one another's lives for literally decades. So you have a gentleman nearing middle age and an older woman who is reaching her twilight years. She has been his nanny and maid his entire life, and suddenly their roles reverse. Instead of her constantly taking care of him, always being concerned about how he's eating, is his home clean, is he being cared for, suddenly he has to be concerned about her. She ends up suffering from a stroke and can no longer function on her own. She can no longer be the caretaker. She has to be cared for. And he 100% is willing to do that. She is his, for all intents and purposes, his mother figure. She has cared for him. She has loved him. And in in many regards he does feel the same for her. He sees her as a mother. So it's one of those movies that is so small when it focuses in really just on these two characters, but it's so big at the same time. I mean, you 100% feel for both of them, and you feel yourself tense up when he's frustrated, when he is going through things that he's never had to deal with, even though it's ridiculous that he's never had to deal with certain things. It it's a phenomenally well put together movie, and I, of all the films that I'm recommending today, this is probably my favorite. Um, it's just really stayed with me over the weeks since I watched this last, and I'm honestly still so affected by it when I think about the movie itself. So please do check out A Simple Life. It's an absolutely gorgeous film. All right, moving right along with our Hoopla digital recommendations, let's get these started with something a little bit different from the movies that we've already recommended today. and that is David Cronenberg's A History of Violence. Now, so far we've really talked about movies that have a lot of drama, that are really about the small interactions between an everyday family. This one is not that. It does include small interactions within regular families, but it also includes some really irregular interactions as well. So, this is absolutely a Cronenberg film. Let's start with that. In that it has one of those really stylish, really intricately plotted storylines. It's a thriller. It has some phenomenally well done action scenes, and it does have a ton of drama going on, but all of that blends together to give it this tense, really kinetic feeling. So this movie stars Viggo Mortensen, who plays a character named Tom. He's just this quiet diner owner with this small family in this small town. He's a quiet guy. He's a nice guy. Everybody likes him. Until one day when a couple of thugs come into the diner, and in order to defend himself, he ends up killing these two men. He's lauded as a hero, but things start to come out about how quickly he was able to dispatch these guys, how skillfully he was able to dispatch them. And that sets off this chain reaction of events that it's just a really, really intricately plotted movie that has you questioning so many things all the way along. And I feel like that's really indicative of David Cronenberg's films in general. Like everything is a question. Nothing is ever exactly what it seems. And Mortensen does such an excellent job as Tom. Like you don't know who he really is. Is he the sweet diner owner who knows everybody in town? Or is he some kind of vicious monster who can kill a couple of guys without breaking a sweat? And those questions aren't just being asked by the audience, those questions are being asked by this family that only knows this sweet diner owner. His family had no idea that he was capable of any of the extra things that start happening. And it's those interactions that drive this film along. Um, Other relationships you discover that he has are also like hugely impactful within the plot. It's just such a well done film. If you haven't seen it, I strongly recommend it. It is a hard R film, like there's a lot going on, um, but it's absolutely excellent and really, really, really worth the watch if you like thrillers and action and really good acting and excellent plots. If you like good movies, this is one to watch. So please do check out A History of Violence on Hoopla. You won't regret it. Excellent pick. My second film from Hoopla is a much quieter film, much more in line with the other recommendations we made earlier, except this one is very, very funny. I mean, you've got soft, sweet, heartfelt moments, but you've also got laugh out loud comedic scenes as well. Roommates features performances from Peter Falk, who I think most people know as Columbo, as well as D.B. Sweeney, who was the male lead in The Cutting Edge. If you were around in the 90s, you probably know that movie too. Um, but these two guys, they are so wonderful together. Um, Falk plays this, apparently based on a true character, a 107-year-old baker in Pittsburgh who has taken care of his grandson's entire life essentially, and he has no intention of giving up this caretaking position anytime soon. Remember, he's 107. So his grandson is a grown man, but he still intends to teach him so much more about life. And it's this sort of warm, bickering relationship between the two, where, Rocky, the grandfather, is still absolutely certain that his grandson needs all of this help. And in some ways, he does. He does still need guidance. But it's also the grandson's struggle to sort of assert his own kind of control on his own life. Having a family, having a job, moving along. And the two of them are just wonderful together. Like every scene where they have these little exchanges just make you smile. Every scene it makes you want to laugh and reflect on their relationship. So if you are interested in something that is sweet, warm, fuzzy, that will leave you feeling better than when you started the movie, please do check out Roommates. It's a lovely film to sit down and watch when you're in the need for a little pick me up. So please do check it out, Roommates on Hoopla Digital. My final recommendation from Hoopla Digital is for a romantic dramedy starring Catherine Zeta-Jones, Aaron Eckhart, and Abigail Breslin in yet another film that begs the question, what makes a family? So this film centers around a woman who is a workaholic chef. She doesn't want to do anything besides cook. She doesn't need to do anything besides cook because she is the absolute best at what she does. Um, she doesn't have responsibilities really outside of that. She takes care of herself, and really, that's her every single day. Unfortunately, circumstances happen where her niece suddenly comes into her care, and this throws her life into utter turmoil because, again, we're dealing with a woman who had a very set, regimented life. She went to work, she went home. She went back to work, she went home. She didn't have responsibilities outside of that. And suddenly she's dealing with this preteen who is grieving, who is lost, who is lonely, and she has to figure out a way to make a better life for this kid. When you throw a potential love interest, which starts out as someone who she just is constantly bickering with, another chef in her restaurant, you know, you suddenly start having these other interactions where the niece starts interacting with this guy who seems to understand how to interact with children significantly better than Zeta Jones's character. It's it's funny, it's sad, it's warm, and it's very much one of those movies that will make you smile in so many parts. It's a romantic comedy with a lot of drama in it. So if you're in the mood for something like that, in addition, if you're in the mood for something like that with the backdrop of really delicious looking food, No Reservations is absolutely a movie that you should check out. It's a sweet romance. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who is looking for something that will warm their heart. So please do check out No Reservations on Hoopla. It's an excellent pick for this week. Okay, so my very last recommendation is from the Kanopy service, and it's for the movie Captain Fantastic, which also features a performance from Viggo Mortensen, although in a totally different vein from A History of Violence. In this one, Viggo Mortensen plays this thoroughly devoted and dedicated father to 6 children. He and his wife choose to isolate themselves from the world and raise these kids without um, mainstream influence. But then tragedy suddenly strikes, and his family is forced to go back out into the world. And that's when all of their problems and complications really come raining down on them. He ends up in this constant power struggle with his wife's father, and that father is played absolutely brilliantly by Frank Langella, and it's this constant butting of heads. I mean, there's pretty much absolutely nothing that the two of them can agree on, especially when it comes to how the kids should be raised. And, you know, the kids only know this one way, this one style of behavior. And because Langella's character is so different, some of that is just very, very seductive. You know, that this new way is always going to be appealing. And so you have Mortensen's character constantly trying to reel them back in, trying to make sure that they don't abandon all of these beliefs that he and his wife had tried to instill in them. And at the same time, they're trying to, assert their own authority on their lives because they are getting older. They are trying to be the adults that their parents taught them to be. And it's that constant sort of struggle that makes this film really interesting to watch. Um, because it's not like a cut and dried, this way is the right way and that way is the wrong way. It absolutely isn't. It's about trying to figure out how to find the balance to get to those different points. And this movie does a really good job of making everything a little bit murky, so you never know who exactly has the right of way. Um, it's anchored by Mortensen and Langella's performances, of course, but all of the kids are really wonderful actors. You know how sometimes you get those movies with big child casts, and there's always at least one that you kind of get a little cringy over? That is not the case with this. Everybody does a really excellent job, very relatable, very much not annoying. Not that some of the performers in other films are, but you know what I mean. Um, so yeah, these performers are all really what makes this film, or really what make this film so engrossing. So if you're looking for a family drama that really delves into the constant little struggles that any family could have, please check out Captain Fantastic. It is a really excellent movie. And with that, I've gone through this week's list of recommendations. As always, if you have any recommendations for things that you are currently watching, please do make a comment and let us know. We love hearing from you. Um, if you have any recommendations for what you would like us to feature in the future, let us know about that as well. And with that, I am going to go ahead and sign off and wish everybody well. I hope everybody has an excellent week, and I will see you all next Friday. Bye.